Hey everyone, welcome back to this week's episode of the Reddest Beard Podcast. I'm your host, Sean Martin. This is the 10th and final episode of my first season. It's a big one for me, just because I'm not sure I ever really thought I'd get this far. I've got an entire season under my belt now. A lot of experience, a lot of mistakes, a lot of things I've learned how to do and had to improvise. Over the course of the past 4 months, I've recorded hours of material, had to learn how to edit down only the stuff that I've wanted to really keep, produce and publish the shows, get it out there across social media, and pick up a regular listenership for each of my episodes of between 75 to 100 people per episode. As of today's date, I've been played over 1,000 times on various platforms like Spotify and Google Podcasts and Apple Podcasts. Your support means the world to me. I've got a sponsor, so every time I get played, I get paid. And I'm building up a following on YouTube as well as my Instagram and Facebook pages. You guys blow me away. I appreciate every single one of you, all of your support, whether it's the subscriptions, the likes, the sharing, or just playing the podcast. You're all very important to me, and it proves to me that I'm doing something that matters. I'm entertaining people around the world. You guys make me feel great. So, to sum up this episode, it's a big finale for the first season. So, thank you again. Stick around for just one moment. Got the spot coming from my sponsor, and then we're going to get into the meat of the episode. The year in review, my 2020. Things that happened, how it went, and how 2021 is going so far. I'll be right back with the Reddest Beard Podcast. Hey everybody, this is Sean Martin, aka the Reddest Beard. Are you interested in starting your own podcast, just like I did? You can check out the Anchor app, or anchor.fm. That's what I use to create my podcast episodes. There's creation tools that allow you to record and edit the podcast right from your phone or in your computer browser. Anchor actually distributes your podcast for you, so it can be heard on Spotify, Apple Podcasts, and even more platforms. You can make money from your podcast like I do, with no minimum listenership. Best of all, it's free. So, if you want everything that you need to make a podcast in one place, go download the free Anchor app or go to anchor.fm to get started today. So this episode really has two parts. The first thing I want to share with you is a story that kind of changed my outlook on life and was a real turning point for me and a real boost for me when I needed it. And the second part is just going to be an update on where things are now. So the first one is a conversation I had with a friend of mine from high school. Now, I had been in a serious car accident back in 2018. Part of my back was broken. So I had to have a surgery and have a couple of titanium rods bolted onto my spine. After that, it took me a long time of physical therapy and rehab to get back to being able to move. At first, I was walking with a walker and then a cane, and then walking on my own, but having to learn to do exercise and carry things again. One of the things that I learned from that experience was I love walking, because if you can't walk and then you are finally able to do it again, you will be a walking fool. I liked it because it made me feel better. But at the same time, I felt terrible at times because I'd get so tired and so sore from walking a few hundred steps, and I would be depressed and distraught thinking, this is what my life's going to be like now. Well, a friend of mine got married. He had a wedding down in Florida, and a bunch of us from high school got together. It was a friend from high school, and the crew got together to go down and visit him for his wedding. I went down there, and I was still in the middle of therapy. I got special access on the plane because I got on with a cane, and so they were like, "Hey, you get to have priority boarding." And I thought, "Wow, a perk, the only perk." And one of my friends pulled me aside at the wedding in the first part of the reception. And this guy is easily the most successful person I know. He went to business school, an elite business school. He started off doing very well for himself at a very young age. Financially, he's easily the most successful of any of the guys that I went to high school with. I was always jealous of him, secretly. Harbored some resentment against him, right? Because I was like, wow, maybe I could have been that if I hadn't, gotten addicted to drugs. It wasn't his fault, right? The jealousy, it was never anything that he did. It's not that I didn't like him. He's one of the nicest people I'll ever meet. But the situation, right? I always kicked myself thinking that I wasn't good enough because, like, I would compare myself to him or the UN diplomat or the other business tycoons or the doctor. Who, by the way, if you knew this friend of mine that's a doctor when he was in high school, you would be shocked he's a doctor. Or the lawyers that I know, all these people who went off and I'm like, I teach. So I was kicking myself in the ass, right? Because I was already having a hard time even walking and I felt like my life was over. I'd been hit by another driver who wasn't paying attention and completely derailed everything I had planned for my life. And I'm down at my friend's wedding and I'm feeling better because I can move, but I'm still pissed because I can't move as well. And, this guy pulls me to the side and he says, Sean, I just wanted to let you know how proud I am of you. And I was like, what? And he told me that he always respected me and he always, kind of felt like he was a little bit jealous of me because I had this lifestyle that I'd created where I was traveling around and teaching and like I had some impact and I always had a plan of what I was going to do and I was informed on how I could go out and make a difference in the world. And he told me that he envied that about me. And that shook me to my core. That rocked the foundations. I was not prepared for that. Here's this guy that I had secretly admired and been jealous of for his life, and he was telling me that that's how he felt about me. I had taken the good things in my life for granted. Then when they were taken away from me, I was pouting about it and depressed. Now, depression is a very real thing that is not always brought on just by bad events. And I know that because I've been dealing with actual clinical depression since I was a teenager, where everything's going right and you just wake up some days and go, time to die, because your brain just turns on you. So this depression that I was going through at that time, it was a little bit of that and a little bit of just me feeling sorry for myself. And then this buddy of mine pulled me aside and tells me that he envied me because the life that I'd had where I was traveling around, making an impact, finding places to teach, helping kids, working with young people. To him, that was what was important. And he didn't feel like he had enough of that. And blew me away. Also, he said exactly the right thing at exactly the right time. I was in a real bad place. I was in the thick of it emotionally. And he had no idea what that meant to me. Actually, when I got back from Florida that next week, I had a meeting with my therapist because of the depression and the inability to move and the constant pain, I'd started going to a therapist regularly because I needed to talk things out and get my head straight. And I brought it up to him, and my therapist was just like, yeah, this couldn't have come at a better time for you. You really needed something to change your perspective. And he did. And that simple conversation, right, him telling me he was proud of me, really changed things. Changed things for the better. Made them feel good again. Gave me a light at the end of the tunnel. And I didn't know even if he realized what that was doing for me, and I brought it up to him again a year later when I was visiting him in San Francisco after everything was better, after I'd cleared to travel and I'd been around and feeling good. And I told him how much that meant to me. And he just looked at me in the most humble way and he went, well, yeah, it's what friends are for, right? That's what we do for each other. And again, he just blew me away. Simple conversations can have the biggest impact. Simple conversations can actually change people's lives. I want you to remember that. I want you to reach out if you need to have those conversations. I'm the host of a podcast. I talk for a living. If you need to talk, just let me know. Get it out there. Tell people, share your experience. It's important. So how was your 2020? My birthday is coming up, end of February. I had celebrated my birthday just a couple of weeks before the pandemic really hit full stride and started shutting down everything around the globe. If it continues for the next few weeks, which I assume it will because it doesn't really show any signs of slowing down, I'll hit that 1 year in pandemic mode. I'll have had a pandemic birthday, like I'm sure many of you already had. Let's hope that it doesn't get to being able to celebrate 2 pandemic birthdays, and that we'll all be able to look back on this and say, hey, do you remember that one that we had? That was weird. But as I'm moving forward toward my 35th birthday, I'm thinking a lot about a plan that I made for myself about 5 years ago. When I turned 30, I set this arbitrary goal for myself that I would have visited all 7 continents by the time that I turned 35. It seemed doable at that point, though not anymore. It was a pretty arbitrary goal that I set for myself just because it was something that I wanted to do to challenge myself to get out, to travel and experience more of the world. Well, that's not going to come true this year, unless somehow I'm kidnapped by a group of penguins and dragged off to Antarctica. Actually, I've still yet to travel to Oceania, which is Australia, New Zealand, all those things down under. And believe it or not, though I speak Spanish and teach Spanish, I've never actually been to Latin America, to South America. I've been to Central, but not to South. So I've got North America, Europe, Africa, and Asia off the list, but I've got 3 more to go. That's just something I'm thinking about with this end of year reflection as my birthday is coming up. I wonder for most of you if you had some similar plan, something crazy, some milestone that was coming up, or some milestone that will have happened now since this crazy year 2020 happened and shook the foundations of all of our lives. I started off the year like everybody else, employed with a regular job, things going normally, pub trivia with my friends on Wednesday nights, regular meetings with people, the ability to walk around and enter coffee shops and restaurants without actually having to wash, rinse, and repeat with my hands, my face, putting on masks, sanitizing everything with alcohol. Life was normal back then. Didn't see any of this coming. And then just a few short weeks after my birthday, it seemed like the entire world was shut down. I was really lucky. I had to go into isolation with a flatmate that I got along really well with, though after a couple of weeks, we took turns seeing who would get the majority of the house to ourselves while the other one stayed in the room. But we weathered it. I lost the full-time job I had just because the industry that I was in, working in drug rehabs, well, we didn't have people coming for inpatient rehabs. They were a health risk. Having an inpatient rehab was considered dangerous because people could come in and if they hadn't gone through quarantine, mixing and matching with the other members of the rehab, then they could spread the virus if they had it. That got shut down and I was forced into just relying on online teaching. Now, normally, teaching online is a pretty good gig because you can do it from anywhere in the world as long as you're awake and matching with the right time zones and you have the skills and the students, you can pull it off. The problem for me was that schools all closed. And then I specialize in the SAT and the ACT and preparing students for the university entry exams in the States. Well, that seems all well and good until all of the universities cancel the entrance exams because schools have been closed. Everyone seemed to be moving to online teaching. So then instead of being an online teacher in a world where not many of them existed, I was suddenly one in a sea of all of the teachers in the world being moved online. Things got rough. Luckily, isolation meant that I wasn't spending money, wasn't traveling, wasn't taking any lavish trips and going out spending. I think my biggest expenditures were just on delivery food, which I'm sure most of us can relate to. But as the months dragged on, I realized things weren't going back to the way that they were. That rehab job, it was gone. Until the until everything settled down, there was really no going back. The fundamental problem that existed with it, importing people into an enclosed space in the era of a pandemic, well, that wasn't going to go anywhere. It was a risk, and health authorities weren't going to just open that back up. Online teaching had to get sorted out because schools had to continue. I started getting students again, but not in the volume that I was used to. I was kind of stuck in the middle of an existential crisis. I had had some relationships. I'm a chronic short relationship type of guy. Meet somebody, settle in with them for a few weeks, and then I realized pretty quickly it's either something that could possibly happen or this is not going to work in the long term, and so I end it. That's good and bad. Has its ups and its downs. One of the downs being that sometimes a new partner can be caught off guard because after 3 or 4 weeks they think, oh, this might still work, and I've already made up my mind. So that was a rough period as well because I'd had some short-term relationships, dating, getting to meet people, and then just cutting things off. Then I was stuck in isolation without a job and trying to figure out what to do with my life. Needless to say, it was a little bit rough, a little dark, a little depressing. Add to that the fact that a friend of mine that I had lost contact with, a choice that I had made on purpose, well, I found out at the beginning of last year that he'd killed himself. I don't think that ever really hit until halfway through the first year of lockdown. For some reason, I started thinking about all the things I wanted to do and that I wanted to do with him that we had made plans to do one day. Now, I had cut the relationship off because for my own mental health, it had to be done. But I think there was part of me that thought maybe one day things would get better. We'd meet again, we'd work it out, and we could be like we were. That wasn't going to happen, though, because January last year, he ended his own life. And he was a little bit of a dark personality like mine. Black humor, gallows humor. That was one of the things that we bonded over. And I remember thinking after the pandemic started and everything went crazy, man, he'd be so pissed to find out all the stuff that's happened this year after he killed himself. He got out right before the fun started. But it wasn't actually fun. Like I know a lot of us experienced. We had some really hard times. But things did start to turn around toward the end of the summer. Sense of normalcy returned when schools went back and I started getting students again. Then I met my buddy John, who had a nice long talk with me one night about what I wanted to do with my life, what my purpose was, what I was doing since I was just sitting around idly trying to figure out ways to make money. He's the one who gave me this idea and encouraged me to start a podcast because he said, I have good stories and a good storytelling ability, so I should get that out there and utilize it. And I took him on faith because I didn't think I did. Turns out he was right, or at least according to quite a few of you, he was right. I'm still slowly working myself into believing that. But things did start to turn around. I finally had a platform that I could express myself and get things out there, self-publish written work that I had. If you haven't been over to my website yet, thereddestbeard.com, please go over, take a look. There's a lot of written stories on there, things that I myself wrote. Some of them are actually podcast episodes. Some of these episodes I did in this first season, I did as audiobooks of things that I wrote. And you can think of the podcast episodes as like director's cut versions where I give you intro and background to the stories. I never thought that I'd be able to get out there and publish things that I wrote, things that came creatively from inside my own mind. But turns out that all things are possible in the age of the internet. I invested in some software and some hardware, microphones, headphones, spaces to start the show. And so far, it's worked out pretty well. I've kind of gotten into the groove of things. It's been nice. But I know that I'm probably the exception. A lot of us have had a lot harder time this past year. But I think that 2020 did bring some good things. I think it was a catalyst for change in a lot of ways, and changes that a lot of us needed. Now, at the end of 2020, the New Year's Eve, that's the day before New Year's Eve, a couple of friends of mine that own a cafe wanted to throw a little end of year party that they called Fuck You But Thank You 2020. If you haven't got a chance, go over and check out my YouTube page. Just search YouTube for the Reddest Beard, and you get some of my podcast episodes. They'll stay up on Anchor longer and on my website, and eventually I'll put them over on YouTube. I want to give the listeners a chance to hear them on the main platform first, but the YouTube channel also has some little videos that I've been putting together. I picked up a GoPro, some of the hardware I picked up, and I started piecing together short little videos of things that I do, little adventures that I have, so I can share them with you. And the Fuck You But Thank You 2020 event, that's on there as well. You can see the highlights. But for those of you who haven't seen it yet, it was an end of year event where we were celebrating the good things that did come out of 2020, though it was a crazy year. We were ready to let it go, right? That was the first part of the name. Fuck you. But thank you, 2020, because it did inspire change for a lot of us. Now, it was a small group of people that got together, about 15, maybe 17 of us, just in a quiet little intimate setting, not a big New Year's Eve bash. But we kind of had a little cathartic release of all the things that had happened. Some of the stuff we had to let go, and some of the things that we got to share with each other were wonderful. There was a woman that talked about loss in her personal life, but success in her business. Another one talked about the dog rescue and animal charities that she's working with. Other people talked about being clean and sober from drugs and alcohol. Others talked about starting businesses, having a new direction for their life, feeling like they could finally let some of the old go and embrace something new. And I think that's true for a lot of us this past year, that the old way of doing things didn't work. Even if it was working, it stopped working. Even if things were going well, they just stopped. I know that I was not planning on starting a podcast. I am still finishing a degree program online in the US. That's about the only thing that's still going on that wasn't changed by this last year. A year ago, I was doing homework to get this degree done. I'm still doing that now, but virtually everything else has changed. Most of us had to come to terms with the way that things were done couldn't continue. Even if it was something as simple as traveling outside of your home without wearing a face covering. If it was something more complicated like international travel, well, kiss that goodbye. So we're all forced into change. One of my previous episodes is called Changes, and how many of us are afraid to change because we don't know what it looks like on the other side. But if we could get forced into it, or if we can get past it, great things are waiting for us on the other side. And that's what happened with me in 2020. And that's why we had that Fuck You But Thank You 2020 end of year event. So many of us had plans, and the universe just looked at us and said, ha, good luck, and changed everything. But it worked out. There was a real sense of gratitude in the room. I remember on New Year's Eve, I was sitting waiting for the countdown, watching the seconds tick away. And then when I saw the year 2021 come up on the banner, I felt a sense of relief that I didn't realize that I was waiting for. Just to see it not be 2020 anymore, right? Just to see the numbers change to 2021, I felt this huge relief. Now, so far in 2021, if you followed any of the news internationally or in the US specifically, oh boy, it's like 2021 January just said to the entire year of 2020, here, hold my beer. Some crazy things have happened. Stuff that seems like it's got to be out of the movie because real life can't happen like this. Like, this doesn't happen in real life, but it does. And so far, we're smack dab in the middle of it. It doesn't seem like the fates are going to let up or relent anytime soon. That might be good. That might be bad. It's definitely going to be interesting. I'm kind of excited to see what's going to happen. You know, one of my friends, John, he talks about shifts in timelines and changing your reality. And he's going to be on next season talking a lot about that with me because it's something that I believe that we can do. I don't believe that any of us are predestined for anything. I believe that every action that we take affects our reality and affects our futures, and that we're the masters of our destiny. There's plenty of things that are completely out of our hands, but there's a lot that we can change. And that idea of being able to write our own future, I really like that, and I want to explore that more. You know, season 2 is coming up, and I've kind of gotten into a swing of how to do things with this. And I'm excited to have a lot more guests on next season. This first season, I wanted to be an introduction to me, who Sean Martin is, who this Reddest Beard guy is. I wanted you guys to get to know me. I wanted you to hear my voice, my stories. Talking to you about things that happened at all different periods in my life. From when I was working as a security guard in Detroit and ran into one of the guys that I worked with who accidentally burned down his house, to when I was teaching in Israel with crazy kids that were hopping over desks and beating each other senseless, to my first year in China when I was bribed with a trip to a waterfall in order to have to work weekends when my contract said I didn't have to. All of those things, I realize, if I look back on them, I go, you know, I've led a long and fulfilling life so far. I'm only 34. I've got less than a month. Still got about 25 days before I'm 35. And I've lived multiple lifetimes worth of lives. And I'm grateful for that. I'm grateful for all of these experiences. I'm grateful for the things that they've taught me. Even now, as older folks that I know have told me, I'm even grateful for some of the bad things that happened because they really shaped who I am now and the path that I'm on. I hope that you can say the same. I believe you can. I believe everybody listening to me knows that one thing that really kicked them in the teeth and they thought was going to break them, but they overcame it. If you haven't had that, good for you. But watch out for it. It's probably around the corner. I'm happy to share my experiences with you guys. I'm happy for the feedback that I've gotten, especially the people that went through some of these things with me and contact me directly and say, hey, I remember that. Or, do you remember this aspect of it? It's great. It's a lot of fun to be able to reminisce with you guys. I hope that in the future in season 2, I'll have even more people on talking like Nick and I did in our little buddy chat, just shooting the shit about that crazy first year we had. If you're interested in being on the show, please reach out to me. A lot of you already have, and we're going to make that work. In this internet age of Zoom and Skype calls, we can get it done. And I appreciate the support and the interest that you guys have shown. I've got good guests lined up for next season, which is in production now and will be released very shortly. I'm excited to have all you guys with me on the rest of this journey. It's been one hell of a ride. In the words of the Grateful Dead, what a long, strange trip it's been. But I wouldn't trade it for anything. I'm glad to have you guys with me. Look forward to your continuing support. And I'll see you next season. That's it, everybody. That's a wrap for season 1. Thank you for being with me on this journey. If you haven't yet, please subscribe, like, share these episodes. Help me get this out there. Shoot me an email, sean@thereddestbeard.com. Get on the mailing list. Send me a message on Instagram, Facebook, whatever platform you use to listen to this, leave a message. Give me some feedback. Let me know what you want to hear about. Tell me some stories that have happened to you. Tell me about meaningful events in your life. I'd love to hear them. I'd love to share. Take it easy, and I'll see you soon on Tales from the Reddest Beard.